The great meeting hall of the Galactic Council was filled with the sounds of laughter. But this was not happy laughter. It was the cruel kind that hurt to hear. In the center of the huge room, a small blue planet spun slowly in a beam of light. This was Earth, home to the humans. Ambassador Vexithera stood tall on her 4 legs. Her metal-like skin shined under the bright lights. She pointed one of her 4 arms at the tiny planet floating in the air. Her voice was cold and mean when she spoke. "Look at this," she said to the hundreds of aliens sitting around the room. "The humans think they belong here with us. They want to sit in our council meetings. They want to be treated like equals." More laughter filled the room. The sound came from creatures with too many eyes, beings made of living crystal and things that looked like walking trees. All of them thought humans were a joke. "What makes them think they are ready?" asked Chancellor Morden. He was huge, even sitting down. His body looked like it was carved from black stone. His many eyes glowed red as he stared at Earth. They still fight wars against their own kind. They still burn dirty fuels that poison their air. Half of them do not even believe their planet is getting too hot. The laughter got louder. Some aliens made clicking sounds with their mouths. Others hummed low notes. A few banged their hands or claws on the tables in front of them. All of these sounds meant the same thing. They thought humans were stupid. "I have seen their ships," said Admiral Zeklos from the Hegemony Fleet. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "They use chemical rockets like children playing with toys. Their fastest ship takes months to travel between their own planets. My patrol boats move faster than their best warships. And their weapons," added General Tessera, her snake-like body coiling with amusement. "They still use metal bullets and chemical explosives. My soldiers carry hand weapons more powerful than their largest bombs." Ambassador Vexithera raised all 4 arms to get everyone's attention. "Perhaps we should invite them to our next military parade," she said with fake sweetness. "They could bring their cute little rockets. Our children would love to see such ancient technology." The room erupted in the loudest laughter yet. Some aliens fell out of their chairs. Others slapped their tables so hard they cracked. The idea of humans trying to impress anyone with their primitive ships was the funniest thing they had heard in years. What none of them knew was that Captain Sarah Chen was watching everything. Her ship, the Endeavour, was hidden behind a cloud of space dust just outside the star system. Every word the aliens said was being recorded. Every laugh was being saved in Earth's computers. Sarah's hands were tight fists as she watched the display screen. Her jaw was clenched so hard it hurt. She had been a soldier before becoming a diplomat. She knew what real strength looked like, and she knew these aliens had no idea what they were really dealing with. "Captain," said her communications officer, "should we record their military discussions too?" "Record everything," Sarah said quietly. "Every ship position, every fleet movement, every word about their weapons. Earth needs to know exactly who we are dealing with." On the screen, the aliens were still making jokes about humans. Ambassador Vexithara was telling a story about the first time humans had tried to contact the galaxy. Their message had been so simple and primitive that most civilizations thought it was a computer error. "They sent mathematical formulas," she said, her voice dripping with scorn, "as if we had never seen numbers before. As if basic math was some great achievement that would impress us." Chancellor Morden leaned forward in his crystal throne. "What did they call themselves in that first message?" "A young species eager to learn from their galactic neighbors." He made a sound like grinding metal. Young is right. They are babies playing with technology they barely understand. "Their planet is rich, though," said Trade Minister Quillax, speaking for the first time. His body looked like a walking plant, with green leaves instead of hair. "The scans show large amounts of quantum crystals in their ground. Those crystals power all our best technology." "Then we should take them," said Admiral Zeklos. "Why waste time talking to primitives? Send a fleet, take what we need, and be done with it." Several aliens nodded in agreement. Quantum crystals were the most valuable resource in the galaxy. They powered faster than light travel, energy weapons, and shield systems. If Earth had large amounts of these crystals, many empires would want them. The humans would not even know what hit them, added General Tessera. One battlecruiser could destroy every ship they have. Their weapons could not even scratch our armor. Ambassador Vexithera smiled, showing rows of sharp metal teeth. It would hardly be a battle. More like stepping on insects. Captain Sarah Chen had heard enough. She turned off the recording and looked at her crew. They all had the same expression she did, anger mixed with determination. "Set course for Earth," she ordered. maximum speed, and send a message ahead. Tell command that the Galactic Council is not interested in peaceful contact. Tell them the aliens think we are weak, primitive, and easy to conquer. What else should the message say? Asked the communications officer. Sarah stared at the screen where Earth's image was still spinning slowly. The aliens were still laughing and making jokes about her people. They had no respect for humans at all. They saw Earth as nothing more than a source of materials to steal. Tell them it is time, she said quietly. Tell them the galaxy is about to learn what humans are really capable of. Tell them to prepare the Phantom Fleet. As the Endeavor jumped into faster-than-light travel, the aliens in the council chamber continued their meeting. They made plans to divide up Earth's resources. They argued about which empire would get the biggest share of the quantum crystals. They talked about humans like they were animals in a zoo. None of them suspected that their words were already traveling toward Earth at the speed of light. None of them knew that humanity had been preparing for this day for over 50 years. None of them realized that their mockery and threats were about to wake up something that had been sleeping in the dark spaces between the stars. The aliens thought they knew everything about humans. They thought they had seen all of Earth's capabilities. They thought humanity was weak, stupid, and helpless. They were about to learn how wrong they were. In the cold depths of space, far from any star, something stirred in the darkness. Ships that had been sleeping for decades began to power up their engines. Crews that had trained their whole lives for this moment took their battle stations. Weapons that the galaxy had never seen before started charging their energy banks. The Phantom Fleet was awakening, and the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months had passed since the council meeting. The Zephyrian Empire had made their decision. They would take what they wanted from Earth by force. Admiral Kethvar stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Burning Star. Through the large windows in front of him, he could see his fleet spreading out in perfect formation. 200 warships floated in the darkness of space like deadly jewels. Each ship was over a mile long and armed with weapons that could burn entire cities to ash in seconds. "How long until we reach the human system?" he asked his navigation officer. 12 hours, Admiral," came the reply. "We will drop out of faster-than-light travel right at the edge of their solar system." Kethvar's snake-like body coiled with satisfaction. His scales were deep purple, almost black, and they reflected the light from his ship's control panels. His eyes were yellow with black slits down the middle, like a predator studying its prey. The plan was simple: jump into human space with overwhelming force, demand surrender. If they refused, destroy every human ship and military base in minutes, then land troops on Earth and take all the quantum crystals they wanted. Intelligence reports said humans had maybe 50 ships total, small ones too, barely able to fight other human ships, let alone alien warships. The largest human weapon was something called a nuclear bomb. Kethvar had seen the test reports. They were toys compared to what his fleet carried. "Sir," said his weapons officer, "all ships report their guns are ready. We have enough firepower to crack their planet's crust if needed." "That will not be necessary," Kethvar replied. "We want the planet intact so we can mine it. But make sure the humans know we could destroy them completely if we choose to." The Admiral looked at the tactical display showing his fleet. Each ship was marked with green lights showing all systems were working perfectly. His forces included battle cruisers, destroyers, fighter carriers, and support ships. It was enough military power to conquer most civilizations. Against humans, it was like bringing a plasma cannon to fight someone with a sharp stick. "Open a channel to the Galactic Council," Kethvar ordered. "Inform them that Operation Earth Harvest is beginning. We will claim the planet in the name of the Zephyrian Empire within 24 hours. As his fleet prepared to enter human space, similar preparations were happening on Earth. But these preparations were very different from what the aliens expected. In a deep bunker beneath the city of Geneva, General Marcus Torres stood looking at a wall of computer screens. Each screen showed different parts of space around Earth. Some showed the moon, where human colonies had existed for decades. Others showed the asteroid belt, where mining operations pulled valuable metals from floating rocks. But the most important screens showed empty space. At least they looked empty. "Sir," said Colonel Adams, his second in command, "long-range sensors are picking up the alien fleet. They will be here in 10 hours. "Good," Torres said calmly. "That gives us time to make final preparations." Torres was an old soldier. He had white hair and scars on his face from battles fought when he was younger. But his eyes were still sharp and his voice was steady. He had been waiting for this day for 30 years. "Send the activation codes," he ordered. "All ships, all crews, all stations. It is time to wake up." Across Earth's solar system, things began to change. On the far side of the moon, huge doors opened in what looked like solid rock. Inside were shipyards that had been hidden for decades. Ships that had never been seen by alien eyes began to power up their engines. In the asteroid belt, what looked like mining stations suddenly revealed themselves to be something else entirely. Weapon platforms, ship construction facilities, military bases that had been disguised as civilian operations for 50 years. Behind the gas giant Jupiter, where radiation would hide them from most sensors, an entire fleet had been waiting. Ships bigger and more advanced than anything Earth had ever shown to the galaxy. Crews that had trained their entire lives in secret, preparing for the day when humanity would have to defend itself. "Sir," Colonel Adams said, reading from his computer screen, "Phantom Fleet Command reports all ships are operational. We have 3,000 vessels ready for battle." 3,000. The aliens thought humans had 50 ships total. They had no idea that humanity had been building a secret military for half a century. Every civilian space mission had really been a military operation in disguise. Every research station had really been a weapons facility. "What about the new technology?" Torres asked. "All systems are ready, sir. The quantum disruption weapons are charged. The phase shifters are operational. The AI targeting systems are online." Torres smiled for the first time in months. The aliens thought they knew all about human technology. They had seen the chemical rockets and nuclear weapons that Earth showed to the galaxy. What they had never seen were the real advances that human scientists had made in secret. While the galaxy thought humans were primitives playing with fire, Earth's best minds had been solving problems that alien science said were impossible. They had built weapons based on entirely new principles of physics. They had created defenses that could stop attacks the aliens had never dreamed of. "Open a channel to all Earth governments," Torres ordered. "It is time to tell our people the truth." Around the planet, emergency broadcasts began playing on every television, radio, and computer. For the first time in 50 years, humans learned that they were not alone in their solar system. They learned about the hidden ships, the secret bases, the weapons that had been built to protect them. Most importantly, they learned that alien enemies were coming and that humanity was ready for them. Meanwhile, Admiral Kethvar's fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. His sensors immediately began scanning for human ships and defenses. What they found was exactly what he expected: a few small orbital stations around Earth, some tiny ships moving between Earth and its moon. Mining operations in the asteroid belt that looked completely helpless. It was exactly what intelligence had predicted. "Open a channel to the planet," Kethvar ordered. "Let us give these humans a chance to surrender before we demonstrate why resistance is useless." The message was sent to Earth on all radio frequencies the humans used. It was simple and direct. Surrender completely and accept Zephyrian rule or be destroyed within 6 hours. The response came back faster than expected. It was from General Torres himself, speaking from the underground command center. "Admiral Kethvar," Torres said, his voice calm and polite. "Thank you for your message. Earth has considered your offer carefully, and we must respectfully decline. Instead, we offer you a counterproposal. You have 1 hour to leave our solar system and never return. If you choose to stay, you will discover why humanity has been so quiet and careful for the past 50 years. Kethavar's laughter echoed through his command center. His officers joined in, their various alien sounds of amusement filling the air. 1 hour? These primitives were giving him an ultimatum? "Human General," Kethavar replied. "You have perhaps 50 small ships and weapons that cannot even damage our armor. I have 200 warships that could turn your entire planet into molten rock. Are you certain you want to refuse our generous offer of continued existence?" "We are certain," came Torres' reply. 59 minutes remaining. More laughter from the alien fleet. The humans were even more deluded than intelligence reports had suggested. This would not even qualify as a real battle. It would be target practice. Kethavar looked at his tactical officer. "Begin charging weapons. As soon as their hour is up, we show them the difference between civilization and barbarism." But in the depths of space, things were already moving. Ships that had been invisible to alien sensors began dropping their concealment fields. Weapons that worked on principles the Zephyrians had never discovered started powering up. Defenses that could stop planet-killing attacks came online. Admiral Kethvar had no idea that he was about to become part of the most important military lesson in galactic history. He was about to learn that sometimes, the species that seems weakest is really the one that has been preparing the longest. The countdown had begun, and humanity's true face was about to be revealed. Admiral Kethvar watched the countdown timer on his command screen. 3 minutes left until the human deadline expired. He almost felt sorry for them. Their bravery was admirable, even if it was completely stupid. All ships report ready for battle, his weapons officer announced. We can begin destroying their defenses as soon as you give the order, sir. Excellent, Kethvar replied. Target their orbital stations first, then their ships. Leave the planet itself undamaged. We need it for mining operations. The alien fleet spread out in attack formation, 200 deadly warships, each one capable of fighting entire planetary navies. Their weapons were charged and ready. Their shields were raised to maximum power. This would be the fastest conquest in Zephyrian military history. 10 seconds remaining, the tactical officer announced. Kethvar leaned forward in his command chair. Prepare to fire on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Then space began to shimmer. At first it looked like a sensor error. Sometimes the equipment picked up strange readings near planets with strong gravity fields. But the shimmering got stronger, and patterns started to form in the empty space around the alien fleet. Sir, the sensor officer said, his voice confused. I am reading some kind of distortion in the quantum field. Multiple distortions, actually. Ignore it, Kethvar ordered. Some kind of natural phenomenon. Begin the attack. But before his gunners could fire their first shots, the distortions became something else. They became ships. The first vessel that appeared was massive. It was 3 times longer than Kethvar's flagship and sleek like a predator fish. Its hull was black with silver lines running along its surface. It looked nothing like the crude human ships in the intelligence reports. Impossible, whispered the navigation officer. Then another ship appeared. Then 10 more. Then 100. Then so many that the tactical computer could not count them all. They came out of nothing like ghosts becoming solid. Ship after ship of designs that no one in the Zephyrian fleet had ever seen. Some were huge battleships bristling with weapons. Others were smaller and faster, built for quick strikes. All of them looked far more advanced than anything humans were supposed to possess. How many? Kethvar demanded, his voice no longer confident. Still counting, sir, the sensor officer replied. Over 2,000 so far, and more are still appearing. On the bridge of the lead human ship, Captain Elena Vasquez stood calmly watching her tactical displays. She was 45 years old and had spent her entire adult life preparing for this moment. Her ship, the UES Retribution, was the most advanced warship humanity had ever built. All Phantom ships? Report status, she said into her communication system. Responses came back from across the solar system. Ship captains who had lived their lives in secret, training for a war that might never come. Crews who had families on Earth but could never tell them where they really worked or what they really did. Phantom Squadron Alpha. All ships ready. Phantom Squadron Beta. Weapons charged and targeting locked. Phantom Squadron Gamma. Standing by for orders, the reports kept coming. Over 3,000 ships, all invisible to alien sensors until now. All manned by the best crews humanity could train. This was Earth's real navy, built in secret over 50 years, hidden in the dark spaces where no one thought to look. Captain, her weapons officer said, the alien fleet is trying to scan us. Their sensors cannot understand what they are seeing. Elena smiled. That was exactly what she had hoped for. Human technology had taken a very different path from the rest of the galaxy. While aliens focused on making their existing technology more powerful, humans had invented entirely new ways of doing things. Stealth systems that bent light and gravity. Weapons that attacked matter at the quantum level. Shields that existed in multiple dimensions at once. To alien sensors, human ships looked impossible because they worked on principles that alien science said could not exist. Open a channel to the alien fleet, Elena ordered. Let us introduce ourselves properly. On Admiral Kethvar's flagship, alarms were ringing throughout the ship. His tactical officer was frantically trying to understand the sensor readings, while his communications officer reported incoming messages from the mysterious human fleet. Put them through, Kethvar ordered, his voice much less steady than before. Captain Elena's face appeared on the main screen. She looked human, But everything about her ship's technology suggested that was impossible. Humans were not supposed to have vessels like this. Admiral Kethvar, Elena said politely. I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Ship Retribution. You seem surprised to see us. This is impossible, Kethvar replied. Human technology is primitive. Your most advanced ships can barely reach your own moon. These vessels, he gestured at his sensor displays. These cannot be human ships. Elena's smile was not friendly. You are correct that our most advanced publicly known ships can barely reach the moon. Those were never meant to be weapons of war, Admiral. Those were meant to make you think exactly what you are thinking right now. What do you mean? We call them decoys, Elena explained. For 50 years, Earth has been showing the galaxy exactly what we wanted you to see. Primitive rockets, simple nuclear weapons, crude space stations, all of it designed to make you underestimate us. Admiral Kethvar felt his blood turn cold. You mean? I mean that while you were watching our fake primitive technology, our real scientists were developing weapons and defenses you cannot even imagine. While you were laughing at our chemical rockets, we were building ships that can travel through dimensions you do not know exist. The alien admiral looked at his tactical display. Over 3,000 human ships now surrounded his fleet. Ships that had appeared from nothing using technology his people had never seen. Ships that his sensors could barely track even now that they were visible. This is still just 2 fleets, he said, trying to sound confident. We have fought wars for thousands of years. Experience counts for something. Elena's expression became deadly serious. Admiral, your people have fought wars against civilizations that had been at peace for centuries before you attacked them. You have conquered species that had forgotten how to fight, because they lived in harmony with their neighbors. She leaned forward in her command chair. Humans have never known peace, Admiral. We have spent our entire history fighting wars. We have perfected the art of killing our own kind over resources, territory, ideas, and sometimes just because we were bored. When we reached space and discovered we were not alone, we simply took everything we had learned about warfare and applied it on a galactic scale. Kethvar's tactical officer whispered urgently in his ear. Sir, their weapon systems are unlike anything in our databases. Our computers cannot even identify what type of energy they are using. You see, Admiral, Elena continued, your mistake was thinking that a species young to space travel must be weak. But we are not young to war. We are experts at war, and we have spent 50 years preparing to fight enemies exactly like you. Around the alien fleet, human ships began moving into attack positions. They moved with a coordination that spoke of crews who had trained together for decades. Their formations were tight and disciplined, but also flexible enough to change in an instant. I offer you the same choice you offered Earth, Elena said. Surrender now and your crews will be treated well. Leave our system immediately and never return, or discover why a species that has never stopped fighting is not the easy target you expected. Admiral Kethvar looked around his command center. His officers were staring at him, waiting for orders. His fleet was powerful, but they were outnumbered more than 10-1 by ships using unknown technology. More importantly, he was starting to understand something that chilled him to his core. The humans had not just hidden ships from the galaxy. They had hidden their true nature. They were not the peaceful primitive species that intelligence reports described. They were predators, and they had been preparing to hunt. What are your orders, Admiral? His weapons officer asked. Kethvar stared at the human ships surrounding his fleet. Each one was a masterpiece of military engineering, built by a species that understood war better than any civilization in the galaxy. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Kethvar was afraid. Charge weapons, he said quietly. All ships prepare for battle. He had come here expecting to fight primitives with chemical rockets. Instead, he was about to discover what happened when you picked a fight with the most warlike species in the galaxy. The Battle of Sol began at exactly 1432 Earth Standard Time. Admiral Kethvar gave the order to attack, and 200 Zephyrian warships opened fire at once. Beams of pure energy that could melt through mountain ranges shot across space toward the human fleet. Missiles that could crack continents streaked toward their targets. It was enough firepower to destroy most civilizations. The humans did not try to dodge. Instead, something impossible happened. The alien energy beams hit the human ships and simply vanished, as if they had been absorbed by nothing. The missiles exploded against shields that seemed to exist in several dimensions at once. Their destructive power scattered harmlessly across space-time. Direct hit on enemy flagship. reported Kethvar's weapons officer. No damage detected. What do you mean, no damage? The Admiral demanded. I mean the energy hit their ship and disappeared, sir. Our sensors show no effect at all. Captain Elena watched the alien attack from her command chair with calm satisfaction. Human defensive technology was based on principles that most galactic species had never discovered. Instead of trying to stop incoming attacks with stronger armor or more powerful shields, human scientists had learned to redirect the energy to places where it could not cause harm. Their weapons are impressive, she told her crew. Too bad they only work in 3 dimensions. Should we return fire, Captain? Her weapons officer asked. Not yet, Elena replied. Let them empty their energy banks first. I want them to understand how helpless they really are. The alien fleet continued firing for several minutes. Every weapon they had was aimed at the human ships. Energy that could burn away atmospheres struck human hulls and vanished. Bombs powerful enough to shatter moons exploded against human shields and accomplished nothing. Admiral Kethvar watched his tactical display with growing horror. His ships were firing continuously, using enough power to level entire planets. But the human vessels showed no damage at all. It was as if his weapons were toys being used against targets made of solid neutronium. Sir, his tactical officer said, voice shaking. We are down to 60% power reserves. If we keep firing at this rate, we will exhaust our energy banks in 20 minutes. Then we increase power, Kethvar ordered desperately. All ships, emergency power to weapons. Everything we have. Admiral, came a calm voice over the communications channel. It was the human captain again. You are wasting your energy. Our defensive systems are based on redirecting force, not absorbing it. You could fire for 1,000 years and never damage one of our ships. Impossible, Kethvar snarled. No technology can be completely immune to attack. You are correct, Elena agreed. But your weapons are designed to work in normal space-time. Ours work in 11 dimensions simultaneously. We are simply fighting in places your weapons cannot reach. She paused to let that sink in. Would you like to see what our weapons can do? Before Kethvar could reply, the human fleet opened fire. What happened next would be studied by military academies across the galaxy for centuries. The human weapons did not fire energy beams or launch missiles. Instead, they seemed to reach out and touch alien ships with invisible fingers. And those ships simply stopped existing. The first Zephyrian destroyer to be targeted flickered once and then collapsed into itself, as if all of its matter had suddenly decided to occupy the same space at the same time. There was no explosion, no debris field. The ship was there one moment and gone the next. What happened to the stellar blade? Kethvar demanded. Unknown, sir. His tactical officer replied, his voice barely a whisper. It just ceased to exist. No energy signature, no explosion. It simply is not there anymore. More human weapons fired. A battle cruiser folded in half like paper being creased by an invisible hand. A missile frigate turned inside out, its hull becoming a twisted sculpture that physics said should not be possible. An entire squadron of fighters began moving backward through time until they collided with their past selves and canceled each other out. Sir, the communications officer said, we are receiving surrender requests from 17 ships. They want permission to withdraw from combat. Admiral Kethvar stared at his tactical display. In less than 5 minutes, he had lost over 30 ships to weapons he could not understand. His remaining vessels were firing desperately at human targets that seemed completely immune to damage. This was not a battle. It was a demonstration of how far behind the rest of the galaxy really was. All ships, he broadcast on the fleet command frequency, evasive maneuvers, try to get out of range of their weapons. But the human ships moved to intercept with a grace that took Kethvar's breath away. They did not fly through space so much as they danced through it. Their movements coordinated like a school of predator fish that had found prey. More importantly, they were not just using superior technology. They were using superior tactics. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered dozens of worlds, but always against civilizations that had forgotten how to fight. Their enemies had been peaceful traders, explorers, and researchers who tried to defend themselves with converted civilian ships and hastily trained crews. Humans were different. Every movement of their fleet showed the influence of thousands of years of constant warfare. They struck where the alien formation was weakest, retreated when the enemy tried to concentrate fire, and regrouped with a speed that spoke of crews who had trained together for decades. They fight like demons, whispered Kethvar's tactical officer. No, the admiral replied. watching human ships tear through his fleet like wolves among sheep. They fight like soldiers, real soldiers who have spent their entire species' history learning how to kill efficiently. Captain Elena watched the battle from her command center with professional satisfaction. The alien ships were well built and their crews were brave. But they had never faced an enemy that understood war the way humans did. Phantom Squadron Alpha. Concentrate fire on their command ship, she ordered. Squadron Beta, take out their carriers. Gamma and Delta, clean up the escorts. Her fleet moved to obey with mechanical precision. This was what they had trained for their entire lives. Not just to fight, but to win quickly and completely. Captain, her communications officer said, we are receiving a transmission from the alien flagship. They want to discuss terms. Put them through. Admiral Kethvar's face appeared on the main screen. He looked defeated, his confident demeanor completely gone. Captain Vasquez, I request permission to withdraw my remaining ships from your system. Of course, Elena replied politely. But first I need you to understand something. This engagement is being broadcast live to every major civilization in the galaxy. They are all watching what happens when someone tries to conquer Earth. Kethvar nodded slowly. I understand. Good. Then you also understand that you are going to return to your empire and tell them exactly what you found here. You are going to explain that humanity is not the primitive species they thought we were. You are going to make it very clear that any future attempts to attack Earth will end, the same way this one did. The alien admiral looked around his command center. Alarms were still ringing from the damage his fleet had taken. More than half of his ships were destroyed or disabled. His weapons had proven completely useless against human defenses. What are you? He asked quietly. Elena considered the question carefully. We are what happens when a species never stops preparing for war, Admiral. We are what you get when evolution creates predators instead of prey. We are the nightmare that peaceful civilizations have when they wonder what might be hiding in the dark between the stars. She leaned forward in her command chair. Most species in this galaxy had war once, then grew beyond it and became civilized. We never grew beyond it, Admiral. We just got better at it. Admiral Kethvar watched the last of his functional ships beginning their retreat toward the edge of the solar system. The human fleet made no move to pursue them. They were being allowed to leave, but only so they could carry news of this defeat back to the Empire. Permission to withdraw, he said formally. Granted, Elena replied. And Admiral, tell your Emperor that Earth extends its hand in friendship to all who approach us in peace. But we will never again be dismissed as weak or primitive. The galaxy is going to learn that humanity has been watching, waiting, and preparing. The age of easy conquest is over. As the remnants of the Zephyrian fleet limped away into hyperspace, Captain Elena turned to address her crew. Around Earth's solar system, 3,000 human ships began dropping their stealth fields and revealing themselves to the galaxy for the first time. The secret was finally out. Humanity's true strength had been revealed, and every civilization in the galaxy now knew that the species they had ignored and mocked was actually the most dangerous predator they had ever encountered. The battle had lasted exactly 14 minutes. In that time, the balance of galactic power had shifted forever. The news traveled across the galaxy faster than hyperspace itself. Within 6 hours of the engagement at Earth, every major news network in Imperial space was broadcasting the same impossible story. The Fifth Imperial Armada had been utterly defeated by a primitive species that supposedly possessed only fusion rockets and nuclear weapons. The reports were contradictory, fragmentary, and absolutely terrifying to anyone who understood their implications. Emperor Kythax sat in his private chambers aboard Nexus Prime, watching the reports with 4 eyes that had not blinked in over an hour. The recorded testimony from Admiral Vorthak played again and again on his personal screens. Descriptions of human ships that moved without engines, weapons that erased matter from existence, and technology that operated outside the known laws of physics. Impossible, the Emperor whispered, but the word carried no conviction. The evidence was undeniable, even if it challenged everything the Empire believed about the universe. Chancellor Ethiel, the Emperor's chief advisor, stood nearby with his insectoid features twisted in confusion. Your Majesty, our intelligence analysts have examined the sensor records from Admiral Vorthak's flagship. The data suggests that humans have been operating advanced dimensional technology for decades, possibly centuries. Centuries. Emperor Kythax turned his massive frame toward the Chancellor. How could an entire civilization hide technology of this magnitude from our surveillance networks? The deception appears to have been systematic and complete, Chancellor Ethel replied, consulting his datapad. Every piece of technology Earth displayed to galactic observers was deliberately primitive. Every human who interacted with alien visitors played a carefully rehearsed role. Our analysts estimate that maintaining such a comprehensive deception would require coordination involving millions of individuals over multiple generations. The Emperor considered this information. In his 4,000 years of life, he had conquered hundreds of worlds and subjugated thousands of species. He understood military strategy, political manipulation, and technological development. What he did not understand was how an entire planet could collectively lie with such precision that they fooled sensors designed to penetrate any deception. "What do our spies report from Imperial worlds?" the Emperor asked. Chancellor Ethel's expression grew even more troubled. "That is where the situation becomes complicated, Your Majesty. News of Earth's victory has reached our subject species. Many are beginning to question Imperial invincibility. The reports were coming in from across the Empire's 50,000 worlds. Species that had submitted to Zephyrian rule were asking uncomfortable questions about their own situations. If humans could hide advanced technology for so long, what other supposedly primitive civilizations might be more dangerous than they appeared? If the mighty Fifth Imperial Armada could be defeated without destroying a single enemy vessel, how reliable was Imperial protection really? On the industrial world of Carantha Prime, workers had stopped production of Imperial weapons and demanded renegotiation of their tribute agreements. On the agricultural planet Zenthava, the local population had declared their independence and requested protection from the humans of Earth. 36 minor species had sent diplomatic messages to Sol System, offering trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. "The Empire is destabilizing," Chancellor Ethel said quietly. "If we cannot demonstrate that Earth's victory was a fluke, we may face widespread rebellion." Emperor Kithax stood up from his throne, his 12-foot frame casting shadows across the chamber. "Prepare the first Imperial fleet. I will personally lead our forces to Earth and destroy this human deception." "Your Majesty," Chancellor Ethel said carefully, "our military analysts strongly advise against that course of action. If Earth's defensive capabilities are even half of what Admiral Vorthak reported, sending another fleet would only result in another humiliating defeat." The Emperor's 4 eyes blazed with fury. "Are you suggesting that the Zephyrian Empire should surrender to primitives who were begging for our protection 6 months ago?" "I am suggesting that we reassess our understanding of what these primitives actually are." Meanwhile on Earth, the revelation of humanity's true nature was creating its own challenges. For 70 years, most humans had genuinely believed their species was helpless against alien threats. The discovery that their governments had been hiding dimensional technology and secret colonies came as a shock even to many world leaders. President Martinez stood before the United Nations Assembly, addressing representatives who were still trying to process what they had learned. Behind her, holographic displays showed images that seemed like science fiction. Human cities existing in folded space, weapons that manipulated reality itself, ships that could travel between parallel dimensions. "The deception was necessary," President Martinez said, her voice carrying across the stunned chamber. "If our real capabilities had been discovered too early, the Empire would have mobilized its full strength against us. By appearing weak and primitive, we bought ourselves the time needed to develop defensive technologies that could protect not just Earth, but any species threatened by Imperial expansion." The questions came rapidly from delegates who were struggling to understand their new reality. "How many humans know the truth?" asked the representative from the Pacific Islands Federation. "Approximately 2 million humans are directly involved in our phantom civilization," President Martinez replied. "They live and work in dimensional facilities hidden throughout normal space. Another 50 million have various levels of security clearance regarding our real technological capabilities." "What about our families?" demanded the delegate from the Northern European Union. "My children attend schools that teach physics based on principles you are saying we mastered decades ago." President Martinez nodded sympathetically. The educational deception was perhaps the most difficult aspect of maintaining our cover. Real scientific advancement had to be hidden, while ensuring that humanity continued to develop culturally and socially. We could not risk creating a species of people who were technologically advanced but emotionally or intellectually unprepared for contact with galactic civilization. Dr. Marcus Webb stepped forward to address the assembly. At 93 years old, he had spent most of his life managing humanity's greatest secret. Now, for the first time, he could speak openly about what his species had accomplished. "Ladies and gentlemen," Dr. Webb said, "you are asking the wrong questions. The important issue is not what we have been hiding, but what we intend to do now that the secret is revealed." He gestured to the displays around the chamber, which now showed star maps marking imperial territories and the locations of species under Zephyrian control. For decades, we have watched the Empire systematically suppress technological development among subject species. Planets that show signs of advanced research have their scientists recruited or eliminated. Civilizations that develop weapons or defensive systems are conquered before they can threaten imperial dominance. The galaxy has been kept deliberately primitive to ensure Zephyrian control. The implications were staggering. How many species possessed the potential for advanced technology, but had been prevented from developing it? How many worlds lived in fear of imperial retribution for crimes no more serious than scientific curiosity? "We propose," Dr. Webb continued, "to change the balance of power in the galaxy, not by conquering territory or building an empire of our own, but by protecting other species and helping them develop their own defensive capabilities." Within weeks, the transformation began. Human vessels, no longer hidden but operating openly, began appearing throughout imperial space. They did not attack imperial installations or threaten imperial citizens. Instead, they positioned themselves around worlds where the Empire had suppressed technological development, offering protection to any species that wanted to pursue scientific advancement without fear of retaliation. The response was immediate and dramatic. Planets that had submitted to imperial rule for centuries suddenly declared their independence, knowing that Earth's phantom fleets would defend them against retribution. Species that had forgotten their own technological potential began rediscovering sciences that had been forbidden under imperial law. On the water world of Aquanus, scientists who had been forced to work on primitive projects for imperial overseers suddenly found themselves free to explore quantum mechanics and dimensional physics. Within months, they had developed their own prototype reality manipulation devices. On the desert planet Xerion, engineers who had been restricted to building simple vehicles began constructing spacecraft that could operate in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Their designs were crude compared to human vessels, but they represented something more important: proof that advanced technology was not limited to humans alone. The Zephyrian Empire watched helplessly as their carefully constructed system of control began to crumble. They could not attack the rebel worlds without facing Earth's phantom fleets, but they also could not allow the rebellion to spread further without losing their grip on galactic civilization entirely. Emperor Kithax made one final attempt to salvage the situation. He sent an envoy to Earth with an offer of alliance.